All right, so we're back, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Trump administration's recent reversal on an extension for temporary protected status for Venezuelans in the U.S.
Wow, okay.
It's really complex, so we're going to be trying to look at this from all angles.
Okay.
We've got news coverage, we've got political analysis, and even some legal opinions, just to get like the full picture.
Yeah.
And it's a really big deal, too, because it could potentially impact over 500,000 people.
Wow.
And it raises all sorts of questions about, like, immigration policy, U.S.-Venezuela relations, and even Florida is right at the center of it all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I think this really highlights is TPS, this temporary protected status thing.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't quite understand it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's not a green card. It's
Right.
not permanent residency or anything.
Right.
It's just like a temporary safe harbor.
Yeah.
You know? And there's like specific reasons why a country gets TPS designation, ongoing armed conflict,
right,
major natural disasters, that sort of thing.
Okay, so like imagine, if you will, our listener, your home country is in just like turmoil, widespread violence, horrible earthquake, that kind of thing. TPS could be like a lifeline for you, allowing you to legally stay and work in the U.S. until it's safe to return.
Right.
But as we're seeing with Venezuela, it's not always that simple, is it?
Oh, no, not at all. And the Venezuelan TPS story is like a textbook example of how quickly things can change in politics.
Yeah.
So the Biden administration, they granted TPS to Venezuelans in 2021.
Okay.
Renewed it again in 2023.
Yeah.
And then right before leaving office, former DHS Secretary Mayorkas gave it another 18-month extension.
Okay.
And the timing of that is so crucial, I think, because it really sets the stage for this reversal that comes from the Trump administration.
Yeah.
And it hits even harder because it's right on the heels of that last-minute extension.
So who are the major players that are pushing this reversal?
Well,
we've got Kristi Noem, Trump's new DHS secretary.
Right.
She's been known for taking a really tough stance on immigration. And there's even this quote floating around where she says, people want the dirtbags out.
It's a strong statement.
Yeah, pretty strong, right?
Yeah. Noem's background, I think, really shapes her views here.
Okay.
She was the governor of South Dakota.
Right.
And she's known for a pretty conservative position.
Yeah.
And I think she sees this TPS reversal as like fixing what she considers an overreach by the previous administration.
Oh, okay.
And working with her pretty closely is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And they've been the ones negotiating with other countries about accepting deportees.
Okay.
And there's this interesting little tidbit, is that they were reportedly on the phone at 1 a.m. ironing out the details of this whole TPS reversal.
1 a.m. phone calls.
Yeah.
Wow, they're serious.
That tells you how seriously they're taking this.
Yeah. So, what are their stated reasons then for reversing this extension?
Well, they're hitting on a few key points.
Okay.
First, they're talking about cracking down on illegal immigration in general, which, pretty familiar theme with the Trump platform.
Right.
They're also raising concerns about this Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua, or TDA.
Okay.
And that's been operating in the U.S.
Okay.
And they're using that to justify, like, tightening immigration control.
Yeah.
And then finally, they're arguing that the TPS program itself has strayed from its original purpose.
Right.
So it's important to consider here, do these reasons actually hold up?
Yeah.
Is there strong evidence to back them up?
Right.
And are there other motivations at play here that they're not explicitly stating?
And then there's also this whole other thing about possibly using Guantanamo Bay to house migrants.
Oh, yeah.
Like, doesn't that just add fuel to the fire?
Absolutely. It brings up all sorts of questions about how migrants will be treated and how far this administration might go to enforce this.
We can't overlook the real, like, human cost of this.
No.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans facing this really uncertain future.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the policy stuff.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about the actual people.
Right.
Whose lives are, like, hanging in the balance here.
Absolutely.
I was reading one article that was talking about Venezuelans working in all sorts of fields here.
Yeah.
They're in large corporations, healthcare, all sorts of things. And it's just heartbreaking to think about people losing their jobs, their stability because of this policy change.
And if we zoom out a little bit, we also have to consider the huge impact this could have on Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Because a full 60% of Venezuelan TPS holders live in Florida.
Wow, that's massively.
Yeah, it's a massive population. And they could be uprooted.
Yeah.
Leading to some serious social and political consequences for the state.
So is this
the end of the road for this TPS extension?
Not necessarily. Legal challenges are almost guaranteed.
Okay.
There have been past court decisions that actually blocked Trump's attempts to end TPS before.
Oh, wow.
So this is going to be a battleground in the courts.
So we've got those key dates then.
Yeah.
Coming up February and July.
Right.
When the decisions on extending TPS again are due.
Mm-hmm.
So the clock is ticking.
It is. The pressure is on.
Right.
You know, this really shows how much U.S. immigration policy has changed under Trump.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big shift away from those humanitarian programs like TPS and way more focus on border security, stricter enforcement.
Yeah.
This whole Venezuelan TPS thing really shows that.
Yeah, it does feel like there's this tug of war going on. You've got the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela.
Yeah.
You know, people fleeing a really bad situation.
But then you have the Trump administration who want to reduce illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And they're concerned about this TDA gang.
That's the tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what makes this so hard.
Yeah.
Both sides have points.
Right.
You know, the people who support the TPS extension, they're saying that sending these Venezuelans back now is inhumane.
Right.
And it goes against what America's supposed to be about.
Okay.
You know, offering refuge to those in need.
But has U.S. immigration policy always lived up to that?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
U.S. immigration policy is full of contradictions.
Right.
And the people who support the TPS extension, they say a lot of these Venezuelans have built lives here.
Yeah.
They've got jobs, families.
Right.
They contribute to the economy.
Yeah.
Deporting them.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be messing up their lives.
Right.
But also hurting the communities they're a part of.
Yeah. Especially in Florida.
Exactly.
But it seems like the Trump administration has different priorities. They're focused on national security, upholding the law.
Yeah.
They're saying TPS was never meant to be permanent.
Right.
And that extending it just encourages more illegal immigration.
They also talk about potential abuse of the program.
Okay.
And the strain it puts on resources.
Right.
And then you've got the TDA gang issue.
Yeah.
Which they're using to say we need stricter immigration control.
Right.
It makes you wonder if they're focusing so much on enforcement that they're forgetting about the humanitarian side of it all.
Yeah, it feels like they're sending a message that the U.S. is serious about border control.
Yeah.
And they won't tolerate anyone taking advantage of the system, even people escaping horrible situations.
And what about the message to other countries?
Yeah. What are they saying to them?
Noem, having those late-night calls with Rubio, negotiating to get other countries to accept deportees.
Yeah.
It all points to a much more aggressive approach to immigration on a global level.
So where does that leave those hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans with TPS? Like, what are their options?
They're in limbo.
Yeah.
Their TPS is still valid.
Okay.
So they have some time. But there's a lot of uncertainty.
Right. So what can they do besides just waiting to see what happens in February and July?
Well, they can look into other legal ways to stay in the U.S.
Okay.
Some of them might be eligible for labor certifications,
right,
which would let them work here legally. Others might qualify for asylum.
Yeah, especially with all the problems in Venezuela.
Exactly.
I imagine applying for asylum is complicated, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It means going through the immigration court system,
right,
which is already overloaded.
Yeah.
And you have to prove that you have a credible fear of persecution,
right,
if you go back to Venezuela.
So you have to prove that you would be in real danger.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a simple solution.
No.
But at least there are some options.
Yeah.
For these Venezuelans who are trying to figure out what to do.
And they're not alone.
Yeah.
There are groups and legal organizations dedicated to helping them, giving them information and resources to navigate all of this.
So hopefully those organizations can help make sure these people's voices are heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that behind all the legal stuff and the politics, there are real people, their stories, their anxieties, their hopes for the future. Those need to be part of the conversation about TPS.
It's a good reminder that policy decisions, especially about immigration, have real consequences for people.
It affects people's lives in huge ways.
It does.
And how we treat people who are looking for refuge.
Yeah.
It says a lot about who we are as a country.
Absolutely.
We should be a country that's compassionate. Just committed to human rights.
Yeah, both here at home and around the world. Okay, so we've talked about what this TPS reversal means and like why it's happening.
Yeah.
The policy itself,
right,
the reasons behind it, the potential consequences.
Yeah.
But what about like the long-term implications?
Okay.
If we send people back to Venezuela,
Right.
which a lot of people consider unsafe, what does that say about U.S. foreign policy?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if the U.S. is really keeping its promises about human rights.
Yeah.
And giving safe haven to people who need it.
Right.
Sending people back to a country where the human rights situation is shaky at best. There are economic problems.
Yeah.
Political instability.
Right.
It could send a pretty scary message to other countries.
Yeah. It could make other countries wonder if the U.S. is really committed to democracy and human rights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could hurt the U.S.'s credibility as a world leader on these issues.
It also makes you think about how the U.S. deals with governments. It doesn't, is deportation like a political tool?
It could be.
Yeah.
A way to pressure those governments to change.
Right. Or is it just punishing the people who are stuck in the middle?
That's the tough part.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers here.
This is something our listeners should really think about.
Yeah.
How do these immigration decisions reflect on what our country stands for?
Right.
And our place in the world?
It shows that we need a better approach to immigration policy.
Yeah.
One that's more thoughtful, more humane.
Okay.
We need to focus on border security.
Right.
But we also need to deal with the reasons why people migrate in the first place.
Right.
The needs of people seeking refuge.
Yeah.
And the long-term effects on both the countries people are fleeing and the countries they're trying to get to.
So what can we do? What are the next steps?
Staying informed is huge.
Yeah.
Keep up with the news, read different viewpoints, learn about how complicated this issue really is.
Don't just listen to those quick sound bites or social media posts.
No.
Go deeper.
Right.
Challenge your own assumptions. Talk to people who have different opinions.
And if you feel like you need to do something, there are ways to get involved.
Okay.
Support organizations that help refugees and asylum seekers. Contact your representatives.
Okay.
Tell them what you think.
Even just talking to friends and family.
Yeah.
Sharing what you've learned.
Right.
Can help raise awareness. And get those conversations started.
The future of immigration policy.
Yeah.
It's up to all of us.
And I think the most important thing is to approach this with empathy.
Absolutely.
Remember the people at the center of all of this?
These Venezuelans with TPS.
Yeah.
They're scared.
Right.
They don't know what's going to happen.
Their lives are on hold.
Yeah.
Their futures are uncertain.
It reminds us that policy decisions have real-world consequences that affect real people.
It does.
In big ways.
It shows who we are as a nation.
Yeah.
How we treat people who are looking for safety.
We should try to be a country that's compassionate, fair, and dedicated to human rights.
Both here and around the world.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful thought
to
leave our listener with.
I hope it makes them want to keep learning.
Yeah.
And engaging with the world.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
The more we understand these complex issues, the better prepared we are to actually make a difference.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Stay informed. Stay engaged.
Well, we'll be back soon to dive into more important topics.
That's good.
But until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring.